Welcome to the inverted upside down. You're listening to Paranormal Now with Alan B. Smith, rebroadcast on the UNX Network, Thursdays at 11 p.m. Pacific, Fridays at 2 a.m. Eastern.
However you are and whenever you are, welcome good souls to Paranormal Now. This is Alan B. Smith. Join us as we traverse the cosmic highway of paranormal portals and tantalizing turnoffs. We indeed had to take a turnoff tonight. Our first hour guest, Daniel Pinchbeck. Unfortunately, something came up that was of importance, and he had to reschedule. So as of now, we've rescheduled for November 3rd. So keep that date in mind if you are a psychedelic enthusiast or just curious about what all this buzz is in the news regarding research. But the flip side to that is we have an awesome guest, Chris DePerno, in the first hour. So we'll get to Chris. He is the state director for MUFON New York. He is, I would say, one of the most enthusiastic MUFON directors I've ever spoken to. And it's because he cares and you can really feel it. So stay with us. He'll be joining us in just a moment. And I do want to touch a little bit on psychedelics because, originally that's what we were going to talk about in the first hour. And it's really interesting for those of us who have had those experiences. And as I've said on the show before, I've had a harrowing experience. So be careful with these things, do it right. And always be safe setting if you do these things. Hopefully there will be a future where therapists will be able to guide people the proper way in a safe setting with regulations. But again, we're talking about plants, and I'm not pro, making plants illegal. I just think that is fundamentally wrong. Now, synthesizing extracts and compounds from plants, selling them on the street level, that's a whole nother thing. And that's where things can get dangerous because you don't know what you're getting. But there's this movement. There's this movement towards therapy with psychedelics, and it's because it's tried and true. There are too many studies now that have proven with 80% to 90% efficacy of helping soldiers, anyone with severe PTSD that other treatments simply are ineffective against. And these psychotherapy sessions using smaller doses of even things like MDMA, psilocybin, mushrooms, DMT, have these profound and sometimes permanent changes for the positive in these people's lives. And I really think that it's unfortunate that in the 60s, and you can blame Timothy Leary if you want for popularizing it and making these things kind of a party drug. But once it was demonized falsely through terrible propaganda, it was just passed down generationally, and people thought, indeed, these things were really dangerous. Yes, if you take too much, it's definitely dangerous. I can attest to that. But that doesn't mean you should just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And here's a little excerpt from the New York Times by Andrew Jacobs. Quote, "A small study on the therapeutic effects of using psychedelics to treat alcohol use disorder found that just 2 doses of psilocybin magic mushrooms paired with psychotherapy led to an 83% decline in heavy drinking among the participants. Those given a placebo reduced their alcohol intake by 51%. That's pretty, if you understand studies regarding placebos, that's a pretty significant difference. By the end of the 8-month trial, nearly half of those who received psilocybin had stopped drinking entirely, compared with about a quarter of those given the placebo, according to the researchers. The study, published in JAMA Psychiatry, is the latest in a cascade of new research exploring the benefits of mind-altering compounds to treat a range of mental health problems, from depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder to the existential dread of experienced by the terminally ill. So there's so many applications here. And thanks to Angel from UFOT for noting that Oregon was the first state to legalize psychedelic mushrooms. So I just want to look up some facts here in the U.S. So marijuana, like psilocybin, is considered a Schedule 1. Schedule 1 drugs, they have a high potential for misuse, quote, misuse, and have no currently accepted medical use in the United States. Of course, all the research, the medical research, is changing our understanding of these drugs, and therefore there's an argument to change these from Schedule 1 to Schedule 4 drugs. Right now, interestingly, magic mushrooms are currently legal country-wise in Brazil, Bulgaria, Jamaica, the Netherlands, and Samoa. So if you're looking for a psychedelic getaway, you know where to go. Of course, now in Denver, Colorado, and Oakland, California, they both signed legislation to decriminalize magic mushrooms, opening the door, quote, for researchers to explore potential medical benefits. And Oakland County, Oakland City has really been very vocal about this. It's really game changing. And again, I'm not promoting, recreational use. So let's be clear about that. But what I am saying, that through my own personal experience and having experience with addiction, there is no doubt that, sometimes when people are at their bottom, there are options, but the door have been closed on these options. And I'm glad that we're getting legitimate science, and not just, taking a bunch of mushrooms and running around the woods and hoping that your life's going to change, because that may happen, but that's not therapy. In my experience, you can have really beautiful insights. You can actually have experiences that are almost parallel with high strangeness experiences, alien abduction experiences. So there's this whole other consciousness component to it that I'm fascinated with. And so I'm encouraged that our government and certain municipalities are responsibly, edging their way towards exploring these compounds. Now, Chris, having been in law enforcement, we'll see how he feels about all this. Chris DePerno, welcome back to Paranormal Now. How are you, brother?
I'm glad you're asking me about that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to say there's a few things. First of all, thank you for having me on, Alan. It's always
thank you. Thank you for coming in for the first hour. I appreciate that.
No, this is awesome. I will tell you this. I talk to active law enforcement officers all over the world now. Mm-hmm. And I talk to them, especially on the border, and talk to them, a lot of DEA agents. And here's the thing that I will tell people. Whatever you do not get your stuff illegally, because you don't know what's mixed with it. There is a Cold War going on, and people don't want to believe, but it's true. I've talked to special agents. I've talked to Border Patrol people. Chemicals are being shipped from China to South America to the cartels. Mm-hmm. The cartels are making stuff more powerful than fentanyl. They got this new stuff out that's 100 times more powerful than fentanyl, looks like candy, and they're also lacing everything with fentanyl. And young people are dying all over the United States. Exactly. And it does not take much to kill you. And so if I sprinkle it on, the magic mushrooms, or I sprinkle it on marijuana, or I lace it with all this stuff, and believe me, they're doing this. This is not something I'm thinking that they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're doing it.
They're doing it. Yeah.
And so if you're going to use this stuff, please make sure you talk to somebody who knows what the hell they're talking about before you try it, because nobody wants a young person, found on the floor dead from an overdose. This stuff is fentanyl is nothing to screw, folks. Fentanyl is nothing to screw around with. It will kill you faster than what you think.
Exactly. Yeah. And my father gave me some really profound advice regarding this when I was, I guess, like late teens. And it was, don't be stupid.
Yeah. I mean,
And I did
that's the
not
best
listen
advice
to
I
his
can give
advice,
anybody.
but I didn't listen. But hey, you learn. You learn.
Yeah.
But it was good. The whole point was, you might try things. So if you're gonna try things, don't be dumb about it. Like, be smart about it. Be safe. And that's what I really encourage people who are intrigued or already have done psychedelics, is because I had an experience where it was just too much. I took way too much, and it was horrific. I put myself and others in near danger. So that's I do
I've
take this
had
very
people
seriously.
taking psychedelics and jumped off of
Mm-hmm.
bridges. I mean, they, depending on what
Yeah.
dose and everything you take. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I've
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
called to enough overdoses in my life to tell you that some of this stuff does have some medical background to it, and
Yeah.
I totally agree to that. And some of this stuff would be great for PTSD, great
Mm-hmm.
for addiction, as long as it's prescribed and done the right way. Has to be done the
Exactly.
right way.
Yeah.
And where you're getting it from. You can't go around the corner in some back
Mm-hmm.
alley and get this stuff and hope it's not laced, because there's no second chance, Alan.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about the plants in general, just being criminalized, illegal?
Well, because of my background, I'm going to be honest with you. Because
Mm-hmm.
at such a young age, I was indoctrinated into the United States Marine Corps. Had a top secret clearance. Was an
Mm-hmm.
ambassador's bodyguard, and so
Mm-hmm.
we were, drug tested, all the time. So I mean, there's no way I was exposed to that. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got out, I started joining the police force, and you get drug
Mm-hmm.
tested all the time. So. My life has kind of been where hey, I've never been able to experience this stuff, but I have experienced, and I consider myself very experienced on people who have taken this stuff. Now I will
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I have never fought with a person who is high on marijuana. I just haven't. I mean, I just don't think,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
agitated or something of that nature, but
Mm-hmm.
not a knockdown drag out.
Yeah. Yeah.
People with alcohol, people with cocaine, people
Mm-hmm.
with other stuff in their systems.
Sure.
I mean, they, they wanted to take a 2x4 to my head. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's one of the problems that you have. I don't see, plants are a natural thing. And if they understand, like Native Americans are very good at this, if you understand what you're dealing with, how you're dealing with, how to
Mm-hmm.
make it, what to do, and you're supervised, always, you
Yeah. Yeah.
supervise, under a doctor's care or
Yeah.
a psychologist, psychiatrist care or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be beneficial. I love to see this stuff go to PT. I have PTSD, so I mean I
Mm-hmm.
was engaged in hostile environments in the Marine Corps, so
I didn't know that,
I
Chris.
understand.
Yeah. Okay.
What's that?
So I didn't know that. How do you how do you manage that?
My PT, they kind of rate it, and my
Mm-hmm.
PT is at a certain level where I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can function, I can deal with it, and I'm not a harm to myself or
Right.
others.
It's not debilitating you.
No, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
there are certain things that I'm very acute to, my surroundings all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was an ambassador's bodyguard, you're trained that way.
Yeah.
Any Secret Service, Department of State, or anybody, and you're constantly, looking around, seeing what's going on. You sit down, you always have your back to the, to the wall, so this way you can see the door, different things of that nature. So it's not anything, that I can live with. You know what I mean? I have a normal life and everything's
Mm-hmm.
hunky dory that way. But you have these little odd syncrasies that you have from day to day that you deal with. Like, you go outside, you look around, okay, anything get broken into or things, anybody
Gotcha. Sure.
walking down the street that may be, trying to mug somebody or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead. Yeah.
It's like seeking a sense of security.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, at night, I'll ask my wife, did you lock the doors? Did you lock the back door? Did you lock the stuff? I'll do what they call a perimeter check. I'll walk around and I'll make sure the doors are locked and the windows are closed and things of that nature. And a lot of military people will do that. It's just that's the way they were trained. And when you're in a hostile environment, you're more in tune to it. I'm a very light sleeper. I still sleep, but I mean, if I hear something creak, it'll wake me up. I could hear the cat jump off the bed, and I'm alerted to it, and I know the cat just, something just hit the floor, kind of deal.
Yeah,
and stuff. So I deal with it.
Well, we're going to talk about your research into UFOs in New York, and more. And you are the state director of New York MUFON. And I wanted to bring up that I'm actually going to be speaking at Mainline MUFON September 13th. Jennifer Stein is screening the Half-Light documentary. So it's an in-person event, which is kind of cool because the documentary has been available on this channel or on Tubi and hopefully Amazon soon. But it'll be nice to be in a space where I get to talk to other enthusiasts and ufologists and MUFON members about the film. So if anybody is in the Wayne area outside of Philadelphia, it's the Tredyffrin Public Library in Stratford, PA at 7 p.m. And there's also a Zoom link, and I'll send you the link for all the information. You can Zoom in for the Q&A afterwards. Chris, if you're around, if you want to pop in for a Q&A.
I definitely will. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, there's so much going on in ufology nowadays. You can hardly keep up with it. And it's starting to split up into different segments where people are now specializing in abductions or specializing in propulsions or the lights in the sky kind of deal. It used to be ufology was just like what's flying around in the sky. It's not anymore. It's gotten pretty big.
It is, yeah. And there seems to be a place for everyone. I obviously, being called paranormal now, we cover more than ufology, but I try to cover all aspects of ufology if I can. Chris,
a lot of stuff's connected, Alan. I know some people don't want to believe it, but a lot of stuff is connected.
Yeah, and I do. Dr. Bob Davis, who's been on here, several times, and he and I talk on occasion. I'm really interested in this work, researching the consciousness connection. That there's something almost, instead of using the word paranormal, I'm going to say supernatural. There's like this other layer of reality that intersects with our minds, and it makes these experiences real because they are, but in almost in another mental reality, another dimension, as it were. Because like Tiffany Mack, talks about this, and I just saw an interview with Gary Nolan talking about this. The idea that like it's almost like a dream state, and so it's real, but it's happening on another conscious level.
I'm going to give you a word, and the word is frequency. That's the flavor of the month.
Frequency. Good word.
Frequency is all about consciousness and how different levels of consciousness. Some people like to say there's different levels of frequencies, different levels of how frequency works. It's the same thing as consciousness. So I like to put them. I like to put them together because if you're working with consciousness, you're working with frequencies, and I believe the mind can manipulate different frequencies and allow us to do different things. Now, some people that talent comes very easy to. People like me, who's a rock. I mean, I don't have it, but hopefully someday I'll be able to develop that. But I've seen some amazing things. I've talked to people who have done amazing things just by knowing that they can manipulate their consciousness and go to different levels and different planes. It's pretty scary because there's some stuff out there that when they do hit certain levels, it's frightening.
What case? What was it? Let's go back. What was the first case? Do you remember that you worked on when you joined MUFON?
Oh wow! There's some amazing cases.
Do you want to say the earliest case that you remember?
One of them was Lake Champlain case, and to this day, that was the one that made me starting to believe, because actually I came into MUFON as a skeptic. I did not believe in any of this stuff when I first started. I mean, I was fascinated with the subject, but I kind of said, these got to be military planes. These got to be top secret stuff. I seen a lot of top secret stuff when I was in the service. So, here's the deal. So I thought, well, let me look into this. So when I became a field investigator, I got a case out of Lake Champlain. And this wonderful lady told me, says, yeah, we were sitting out at Lake Champlain. We're sitting out on our deck, and I knew something was going to happen. I went and called my husband. I went and called my daughter, went and called my stepmother, and we all went out on the deck. And he says, and I had a feeling that something was going to happen. She says, the stepmother was the first to see this object. It was an orb coming over the treetop level. And they first thought, oh my God, there's a plane on fire. Look, because a bright orange globe like that, they're thinking, oh my God, it must have been a plane. But then it stopped in midair. It was no plane on fire. It was an actual orb, and was going treetop level, dip down, go up, dip down, cover around the lakefront there. And they wanted to get closer to it. So I said, that's amazing. I said, so what happened? Well, my husband was able to take some pictures, and they sent me the pictures. And I go, wow, the pictures came out incredible. They were incredible. Absolutely what they were saying. They described it to a T. So I had them sent to MUFON to have them analyzed. And the analyst came back and said, Chris, that's the real deal. Says not a Chinese lantern, not a drone. There's an object inside that orange, which we started developing this theory that people, when they see these orbs, they're ships. I mean, I'm not talking about the little tiny orb that people see in their house. I'm talking about, this is a good size orb. And there's a ship within inside that thing, which we believe is maybe surrounded by plasma. And so it kind of acted like plasma, electromagnetic plasma generated. And so we looked at that. But the photo analysis people were able to say, there's a ship inside that globe and stuff. We were able to break it down and everything. So I said, hey, listen, I called her back and said, you got the real deal. So, and then I said, how did you know? She goes, well, I knew because I always been getting these dreams that when I get these dreams, they come. Yeah. I go, wait a minute, back up. What do you mean you get these dreams? I go, well, my mother was abducted when I was first born. What are you talking about, your mother? Because she never told me this in the beginning. So now the investigator comes out of me, and I'm trying to all right, I need to know this. So she says, my mother at 2:00 in the morning, when I was a baby in the crib, I was just a child, maybe 6 months, 7 months old. My mother all of a sudden has an encounter with a couple of aliens, and they're by her bedside, and they turn around, they say, we're not here for you. We're not going to harm you. We're not going to harm your child. We want to see your child, kind of deal.
The psychic connection?
Yeah, telepathic, the whole telepathic thing. And they're there. The mother's kind of there. And they hover over, now the witness, when she was in the crib, and then boom, they're gone. So it's not, I like to call it an encounter. Some people could like to call it an abduction because she might have had some missing time. But the truth is, I would label it as an encounter. But the thing is, ever since that time, this woman has gotten such psychic ability. She knows when certain things are going to happen. She knows when people are going to call her.
Yeah.
She knows when certain things are going to happen. And here's the thing that was really amazing. So I said, I'm going to call your mom. I'm going to call your real mom and see what she has to say. So I tracked her all the way down in New Jersey, called her up. She says, oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. Husband, the new husband verified that, yep, that's what happened, because she's told me this story several times, and there may have been other abductions to it. And this woman has woken up with marks that can't be explained, and she sent me pictures of the marks. But here's the thing that really frightens me. She says, ever since I was a teenager, I started developing very vivid dreams of nuclear wars, nuclear holocaust. And I never think about this stuff. I don't, I'm never in the military. I never watched that stuff. But every so often, I dream about this. And after I get these dreams, I have something, psychic ability to know when somebody's going to call or something's going to happen, or I get a visitation, just like the one I explained over Lake Champlain. So that was one of the cases where I went, wait a minute, there's far too much evidence for me to just rule this out as a hoax.
Oh, by evidence, you mean the reports, the
reports, the witnesses that their stories corroborated. I tried calling their bluff on the moms by calling them up. I was waiting for the mom to say, I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Oh no. And then I called, the new father, and oh no, yeah. So I mean, you try to stump it, and you can't. But then you get the photos come back from my people, not hers. My people will come back and say that's the real deal. And so that's hard to turn around and try to blow that one out of the water.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm learning about some of these approaches, like how to ask certain questions. I won't say what that is, but it's like a way of trying to determine whether someone is telling a lie, that they have to kind of keep in their head, right? Because when you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember anything. It just is. It just comes out. And do you have a nose for that? Going into
I was a professional interviewer, and I always watch their eyes, because when you fabricate, I shouldn't be giving this secret out, but I'm going to.
All right, hold on, everybody. Get your UFO tea and your
go. So when I interview people, I watch their eyes and their body language, because I was taught, in my detective days. I actually went to school for it. But your eyes, when you're creating something, your eyes will move a certain way. When you're recalling something, your eyes will move a certain way. And you don't have control over that unless you're absolutely consciously knowing what your eyes are doing. It's very difficult. It's a lot of people, when they say, oh yeah, they're going on the lie detector test and that lie detector, the observers are actually watching their body language, and they're watching their eyes along with it. I was a voice stress analysis detector. Same thing like lie detectors have voice stress analysis.
Yeah.
And we incorporated body language and eye movement with all that. So we watched the eyes, and we said, wait a minute, these eyes are going a certain way. We know that they're fabricating this, or they're bringing this about in a way that we have to look at this very carefully. But
how does it apply? Well, I was going to say, how does that apply if somebody is confused about something that they remember? Because especially if it's something further back, right? And you're going back and you're trying to remember certain aspects of it. Does that affect the behavior? Does it make it more difficult?
Because their body language will show frustration. They will show anxiety. They'll show deception. They'll show different things. Because when people are trying to remember something to recall, not refabricate or fabricate, but recall, they will, get frustrated, and their body language will move in a certain way because they want to recall it. They want to bring it out, but they're not doing. And that's a lot of credibility because, as you get older, you start to forget things. Certain things you won't forget, but certain things you will, and you figure that. If a person said, "Yeah, 20 years ago, I remembered every single thing vividly," I kind of say, "Okay, let's go through the story," and then to come find out it wasn't really that vivid. Because you start asking specific questions, and there's kind of like, I don't have an answer to that question, right? I don't know that. But everybody's so excited.
Right. I mean, look, when you see something that is phenomenal, your focus will often go on certain details but miss other aspects of it. It's like, even recently we had a bear, walking down the street, and it was dark at night. So I was just like looking through the shadow. I'm like, is that a bear that I'm seeing? Oh, wow, it's a big bear. And then I'm watching it. And by the time I think to grab my camera, it's already in the woods. Yeah. Right. But it's like, my mind is hyper focused for that period of time on, and so I'm missing things in my periphery.
It's called tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And we're a lot of military people, a lot of police officers have that effect. We call it tunnel vision. And what it is when something of stress starts to happen, you pinpoint the thing of the most stressful. So let's say you see a UFO. You forget about a lot, or the tunnel vision focuses just on certain things of the object that's catching you right at that moment. And you're, like you said, you're forgetting about the stuff around it, which could be just as equally as important. When I saw my first UFO, I mean, I tried grabbing my camera out of my pocket, damn near ripped my Carhartt. I dropped it on the deck, almost kicked it into the water. I was so excited, and I knew that there was a good possibility we were going to see one because I was in a certain place. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. When you see one of these things for real, it is mind-bending.
I always encourage people, practice on your phone. Like literally practice opening your camera app as fast as possible, whatever that feature is. So that way, when you're having that moment and you're kind of in that stressed state, you don't have to really think too much about, oh my God, how do I get this? No. And then it's too late. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I did the same thing.
Oh, anybody would, because when you literally see something that's not of this earth, and I've talked to so amazing people who, and of course, obviously, did you get a picture of it? Did you get it? No, Chris, you got to understand. It was just at that moment in time, I was, just shocked. I don't know what came over me, but I was shocked. And some people, I got to tell you, Alan, some people have claimed that their encounter was so close, they felt that they shouldn't take a picture.
Yeah.
For something, I have a person who has an amazing abduction story up in the Adirondacks area. He's a former correction officer, retired, and he basically went and got out of his car, went to take a picture of this object, and couldn't do it. His arms couldn't. I mean, for some reason,
like he was emotional.
Did not have the will. Yeah, he didn't have the will to take the picture. He had the camera in hand, couldn't bring it up and do it. And I'm saying to myself, what are you talking about? He says, Chris, I'm telling you, I was in the car. I was excited. I was going to take a picture. I jumped out of the car, and all of a sudden, this wave came over me, and it just felt like I can't take this picture.
There's something scary about that, because you hear about these quote unquote mind control devices that the government has and this and that, but I mean, we know the Havana syndrome is a real deal, right? I mean, even mainstream media will talk about that, and that's a very rudimentary technology compared to what we're talking about, mind control. But we know that you can affect how one feels using vibration, electromagnetic energy, and things like that. So I don't think it's too far fetched to think that a species that's 100+ years ahead of us could have a way
45,000 years ahead of us.
Or yeah. It can almost make you feel guilty, like for wanting to take a picture.
Well, I mean, obviously, most abductees or most people who have had encounters, a lot of them have had what they call screen memories. They only remember certain things, or they don't. Says Chris, I've had people who had very credible encounters, but they said, I didn't have an encounter with an alien. I didn't see an alien. I saw a 6-foot tall rabbit, or there was a deer hovering out my window, or my child told me that Captain Kidd, a pirate, came to his room and took him to this pirate ship, which, ended up probably being an alien craft. So can we have mind control? Yeah, we do it all the time. We started with, first of all, the Russians actually started with microwaves, and that started to affect the brain, and you could actually kill people with it. They tried killing an ambassador in 1952 with it. But all of a sudden that opened up the door to how do we control the mind? Well, we know Project Pandora was real, where we could absolutely use microwave, acoustic waves, and other types of frequencies in order to put hallucinations, to put thoughts, to make people hear voices, to have certain things controlled. I saw one study where they put a helmet on this person's head, and the person just had almost like a joystick. It was a professor out of this university. Can't think of the university right now, but he was actually controlling the movement of this person. If he wanted the person to turn right, he would turn the knob, and the person would turn right, walk right. And this was not the person doing it. The person, I mean, obviously the person was doing it, but didn't have the control of it. It wasn't like, okay, I'll turn right, I'll turn left. The joystick was controlling this person. Now, if we can do that, that's unclassified. Think what the classified world are doing.
Should we be worried about that? I mean,
sure.
Like, are we walking down the street and then boom, all of a sudden we're hit by something and we don't know it? Our thought changes, and we think we have free will.
What is the main thing that the U.S. government does? Let's take remote viewing, which is exactly what we're talking about. Remote viewing started with, can we go see objects that are far away from us, right? So we knew that had to be a certain level of consciousness in the mind, and basically anybody can do it. But what happens? We now take this thing that could have been used for good, and we say, hey, now maybe we can hear what people are thinking and seeing. So they increase the intensity of it to get people who are better at remote viewing, train them even more, and they practically almost weaponize remote viewing.
Yeah.
Because they use it not only for espionage, but the Russians were actually wanted to learn how to assassinate people with remote viewing. They think they might have done it with a guy by the name of Pat Price. He was one of the best remote viewers in the United States, and he was found dead in a hotel room under mysterious situations.
Speaking of mind control, do you think there is something to these accusations against Lou Elizondo and others involved in ATIP and OSAP that they're trying to manipulate us, the media, and foreign adversaries? And what's your take on that?
All right. Well, first thing is Lou Elizondo is a patriot. I want to get that out there because a person who works counterintelligence for all these years, it's a very, very stressful job. You got to be very dedicated to the United States to do that type of job. You got to be very dedicated to the intelligence field. So if all those things fit Lou Elizondo, which I'm sure they do, Lou Elizondo is a patriot, and he still probably has ties to that. Now, I don't mean he's working for the government, but he's got buddies there. Somebody call him up and say, hey, Lou, you know what? What do you think? You think we ought to control the narrative on this? You worked on it. We got to make sure that we put this out the right way to our benefit or to the benefit of the United States. And we got to control the narrative so people don't go crazy on this. So let's put it out in small bits and pieces, and let's have you do this and this and this, because all it would be is a phone call, and I'll put money on it that Lou would not say no. I mean, he's a patriot.
Right. See, I understand the deflection away from our own top secret technology and using disinformation to do that. However, I just don't know, Chris, if I buy it. It's like, if you recall Annie Jacobson's book, Area 51, ultimately she theorizes based on, her journalistic interviews that the Russians faked a UFO and put like deformed children or deformed monkeys or deformed children as the bodies, right, in this thing, crashed on purpose to psych us out based on was it 1939 War of the Worlds broadcast?
Yeah.
And they thought, oh, the Americans are going to freak out. And my thought is, wait a minute. This is not a broadcast. You're literally crashing a cobbled together craft on a military base, and you think you're going to freak the country out. That makes zero sense. That these war-worn military personnel are going to be fooled by that. That's number one. So I never bought that. And then now I kind of see a parallel, because I'm thinking, one, journalists in the media, they're still hesitant. They're not all in that these craft are aliens. So that's that. They're open to it, maybe, but they're not. That's not working. And then who else are you going to fool? The community who already believes in aliens? That doesn't make sense. So then you're left with, they're trying to confuse our adversaries. Well, do you really think that they're fooled by it?
No.
I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, first of all, you got to go back in history. Let's go to World War II. We can go back far, but let's go to World War II. And I just said this on another radio show the other day. In World War II, we were seeing Foo Fighters all over the place. Unbelievable kind of things that flying around that we had no idea what was there. So did the Chinese have this technology? Absolutely not. They didn't even have planes. We had to bring them planes and pilots. They had nothing. The Russians during World War II was the Lend-Lease program. They had nothing. We had to give them. So nobody. And do you think for 1 second the Chinese or the Russians were getting destroyed by the Japanese and the Germans at one point? If they had this technology, I know that Stalin or anybody would have said, okay, let those saucers go and stop this. And it never, ever happened. Now, I'm not saying that technology wasn't being worked upon at that time, but these two particular countries that they're trying to find out they got it now is garbage. Because listen, in the intelligence field, these guys know, because I just tell you, money talks. So if we thought the Chinese had anti-gravity, don't you think for 1 second there'd be all kinds of intelligence agency throwing billions of dollars at people saying, hey, come on over, let's get this stuff. That's number one. I believe, and this is my humble opinion, we have it and the aliens have it. The aliens have it. And I think, from a crash from Roswell, which I agree with you, that's a load of garbage. The first thing the military would have done was to get money, would have said, look what the Russians are doing. They're sending over this fake disinformation. And the Russians do the same thing. Look what they did with Gary Powers in the U-2. We're going to put him on trial. We're going to show all this stuff. We could have done the same thing. And people would have said, give the military industrial complex another couple $2 billion more, because look what the Russians are doing with this.
Yeah. But let's just say that the UAPs, like the Tic Tac, in the Nimitz encounter, are our craft. Look, we've had craft in the past that's decades in advance. So why not something else that's maybe even decades more, exponentially in advance? So if it is our craft, is the the alleged disinformation campaign working?
No, and this is why I don't think the Tic Tacs that were encountered. Now, I'm not saying we don't have anti-gravity, Alan, but here's the thing that what people have to know is, one, pilots are coming back with physical injuries. And why would I mean, if we wanted to play these board games with the pilots, I don't think we would be doing anything to harm them. But the pilots are coming back with physical injuries after encounters with these tic-tacs, with these objects they can't explain. So that's number one. Number two, to put that stuff would be so dangerous that if there would be a crash with an F-18 Hornet or anything like that, do you know, the halls of the Pentagon would crash. I mean, that's a lot of gamble to try to play with a top secret weapon like that in front of your own people and try to hurt them. No American's going to stand for. I mean, if that was our stuff and we injured our own pilots while experimenting with that, that's not going to fly. So then, okay, what is Lou's purpose in all this? I mean, he says that he sincerely wants to get this out in the open, that we're encountering these craft that are putting our pilots in danger, our servicemen and women in, jeopardizing their safety. I believe that he cares, just like you believe he is a patriot. But is there more to the story than just that? I think what it is I think there's a big argument in the Pentagon right now. Are we ready for disclosure? Are we ready to finally put out there to say, your world is going to turn upside down because we're going to tell you that aliens exist and people from other planets exist. They've been here for thousands of years. They've abducted people. They changed DNA. This is a lot. Yeah. And there are going to be certain people who are going to say, oh my God, the aliens are evil. They're demons. They're this. Grab the shotgun, run out the door, and they're going to start firing at everything that moves in the sky. And people may laugh at that, but I'm telling you, it's true. That was going to happen. You know, and I know it. We've had reports of people shooting at things that they don't even know what they're shooting at. So that's pretty scary right there. So I think what the Pentagon, what Lou Elizondo is their point man for it, is to give us a little bit at a time to absorb it, give us another piece to absorb it, give it another piece where we go, yeah, I knew this all along. It's no big deal. To you and I, Alan, it's no big deal. If they came out today and the president said, you know what, guys, we're not the only ones in this big old universe. What you and I would say, see, I told you, and have our coffee. Well, okay, so let's just say 10 years from now, we're finally admitting that these craft, some of these UAP are ours. And I think that would be step number one, that they would say, yeah, it's actually been us all along. Because by then they've got whatever the next level of technology is. Where does the alien conversation come into play? I think it's coming in right now. I think I heard on the radio a couple of news sources saying the Pentagon is admitting that it's not the Chinese and the Russians. They've just come out and said that this stuff is not man-made, not made on this earth. Now, if the Pentagon is starting to say that, they're saying we have no information that this is a man-made Chinese adversary-based craft. Well, you're pretty much saying that it's not from this world. So, where are you going to go? And Justin in chat says, I want my own UFO, damn it. Justin, how are you? Yeah, I would like my own too. Yeah, me too. I don't want those small, those small sports models. I want to. No. We don't want the ones that float in and out of houses. We want a cruiser. Think about this, Alan. Yeah. Do you? I thought about this. Actually, do you really want to go to another planet? Some people. I sure do. I would love to, but I don't want to leave my wife ever, and I don't want to ever put our togetherness in jeopardy. So if I know that we can go and come back, I'm game. Yeah. Yeah, but You don't know that. See, that's the thing. You're playing. You're not playing with the whole deck in your hand. You know what these guys are going to do, and that's why I say we have to accept the possibility that we're not alone in the universe, which I truly believe we're not. But we have to be on our guard also, because we don't know what species are out there. Look at on our own planet. We have humans that can't stand each other for what reason? What I mean, we can't even get along here. How are we able to accept things and species that don't even look like us? And how are we going to react? I mean, can you imagine something coming to your front door that looks like a praying mantis, 8-foot tall praying mantis?
I can't. And I want to add this real quick. Race Hobbs says, "Always good to see you, Chris."
That's my man, Race. What's up, Racer? Yeah, you haven't called me. Disappointing. I hope you're feeling well. I love Race. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah, love him too. And Alice in Wonderland Lorraine says, "Alan, what if you come back in a week, but it's 21-22, but we come back with the same age? Then I guess our house is long gone and sold off to somebody else." It reminds me of when Bilbo Baggins goes off on his journey and he comes back and they're pilfering his relatives are pilfering his house because he was gone too long.
But Alan, that we're laughing at that. That's what's happening in pilots. So there's a new thing called suspended time.
Yeah.
So Alice, you hit it. It's coming out right now. People are not having missing time; they're having suspended time.
Sure.
Which means they're very conscious of what goes on, but time stands still. Some of the pilots are coming back going, "Oh my God, did you see me? I was up with that thing for about 5-10 minutes. No, you were up with that thing for a half an hour." But here's the thing that I was told, that their fuel consumption was only 5 minutes.
Okay, and that's a physical evidence, and it reminds me of the movie Contact. Do you know? When she goes and visits this other planet, she comes back. For everyone else, she was gone for like 3 seconds or something, and then but a recording device had like I don't know how many minutes, 20 minutes of static. Right?
20 minutes of static.
It's the same idea.
And that is a true phenomenon that's happening right now to people.
Then there's the question: is that frozen time? Is that relativity that we're seeing?
Alan, that's a Scooby-Doo mystery right there. How do you suspend time? How do you have a craft that's mechanically working and be able to stop its fuel consumption, stop everything around it time-wise, even though it's still moving? And that's the amazing part. It's not that the pilot said, he had no idea that time was standing still for him.
Yeah.
So I am bewildered. I mean, I don't know how you kind of do that.
In the investigations that you've done in New York State, have you come into contact with a case where the witness has experienced missing time?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Many cases of missing time. I've had cases where I had an abductee that he did not realize. He remembers seeing a craft in the road with his wife, does not remember anything else, and then he was actually put under hypnosis by Bud Hopkins, and the amazing part was that his wife told him, we're in trouble. And he remembers being taken to the part of the craft, seeing a gray alien, and then he started screaming under hypnosis, and they had to take him out. It was just way too frightening for him. But yes, we've had people not only have missing time, but I would say they've had unknown locations. They've been in one location, they've lost consciousness, and they end up 200 miles away. How did I get here? Why are my clothes on backwards? Why am I wearing clothes that I didn't even put on?
Yeah.
I'm wearing somebody else's clothes. I've
Right.
had people tell me, he says, I didn't wear this stuff.
What's special about New York? Why are there so many cases here, and particularly in the Hudson Valley?
I think the Hudson Valley is a hot spot.
Yeah.
I call it the Area 51. And I think one of the reasons is there's so much different things going on in the Hudson Valley people aren't aware of. First of all,
Mhm.
we have found nuclear reactors that nobody really knew about. And you know that these crafts are very attracted to nuclear reactors.
Are you talking about the Pine Island or?
No, we're talking about one that was found. We kept getting these sightings on Metal Road, and we're trying to figure out why are we getting these sightings, these sightings on Metal Road, actual landing there, the whole bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right there on Metal Road, was built by Union Carbide. There was a nuclear reactor built into the mountain that nobody knew about. They called it a research area, and the only way we found out about it is because we went to the historical society. We had heard that this nuclear reactor had leaked, and we were getting a lot of sightings, after this thing started leaking.
Yeah.
And it leaked right into the reservoir, the water, right there at, right at Tuxedo Park. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. But when we found out about this reactor, we found out that they were so worried about the contamination. They were worried about hauling the dirt out, that it would radiate people as they were walking their dog and stuff. They were very concerned about that.
Yeah.
So we were able to find from the Historical Society that there was a nuclear reactor there. And then we put two and two together. They love those sightings at Indian Point is infamous with all kinds of sightings there. And you have now this Metal Road that had a ton of sightings. And now we discovered there was a nuclear reactor there. There's a lot of hidden nuclear reactors.
Right. And that's what makes all this interesting, because oftentimes debunkers will pick one or two aspects of a case and try to debunk that. But it's when you put all of the evidence together, if it's good evidence, and it tells you a different story. But I think the debunker approach always is, let me explain away this one aspect, but that one aspect is unexplainable when you add, X, Y, and Z to it. But Chris, I just want to thank you so much for shifting, to the first hour and jumping in. I really appreciate you hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Alan, you're a great ufologist. Folks, let me tell you something. Alan B. Smith is one of those great ufologists that will tell you what the real deal is. If you follow him, you can't go wrong. Well,
I'm still not comfortable with the title ufologist, but I'll accept it from you, Chris.
Okay. Whatever title you want, he's the real deal.
All right. Thanks, brother. And your show is available at kgra.com/MUFON-what's-up -featured.
Yeah.
So MUFON What's Up. Yeah.
It's a great MUFON What's Up. It's a great show. We have a lot of fun with it. And we throw a little comedy into the whole thing. Yeah.
It's a great show. All right, Chris. Thanks so much.
I'll see you later, Alan.
All right. Have a good night, brother. All right. And thank you all for hanging with us. This is a special hour with Chris DePerno. Of course, we'll have to have Chris back on again. I'm just always, I'm going to use the word adore our conversations. I really do. He's got a good spirit, good soul, and he's really passionate about ufology and what he does. He's got a caring heart. So thanks again to Chris. And as a friendly reminder, September 13th, there will be a live screening of Half-Light in Stratford, PA, September 13th, 7 p.m. I'll be there. We expect a pretty good in-person turnout. So I'll put the link in the chat. If you want to sign up to go, it is a free event at the Tredyffrin Library. So no tickets. You can just show up, hang out. We'll screen it together. Afterwards, I'll speak, and then we'll have a Q&A. And then we'll also zoom in a couple of other interviewees in the documentary to participate in the Q&A as well. So I'm really stoked about that. It's nice to go physical, in person, finally, after this long era of a pandemic. So thank you all again. I'm going to drop this link in the chat. Please check it out. And until next time, peace and love, and live in the mystery.